Yeah, we'll move on to the next speaker is Professor V.N. Mahalakshmi. She's a Dean and the Health Professional Education as a Professor of Pediatric Surgery now working in Arbody Vidu Medical College. And qualification-wise, she has qualified undergraduate from Kilpak Medical College and MS post-graduation from prestigious Jipmer Institution, as well as MCH Pediatric Surgery she has done from Madras Medical College. She has awarded FRCS from Harvard Mackay Scholar in 2018, WHO certified program in hospital management pursuing PhD in medical educations. In experience-wise, she serves as co-chair for MEU and the Simulation Center at present, and she has been controller of examination in the Balaji Vidya University for 2 years and vice principal of curriculum for the AVMC for 5 years. She has contributed many things for our medical education. Just say in few words, fronted many of the curricular reforms under training. In that systemic approach to transition to online learning, including effective use of LMS and e-portfolios. An innovative academic schedule for 250 MBBS students, creation of STEPS, an integrated modular curriculum, use of standardized patient in medical education training, formative ASCII and exit ASCII for personalized competency maps, and faculty development and captured building for education innovation. Madam has organized many of the medical education activities in that, program coordinator, host and moderator for over 100 consecutive weekly episodes for ongoing there's a forefront of Future Frontier and medical website series. I plan to organize more than 100 faculty development for MEUs and more than 40 presentation in CME's conference, national as well as international level. A resource person for national as well as international conference, received 5 Best Paper Award at National and International Medical Education Conference, has organized 4 national conference and 1 national consent building workshops. The madam has published more than 15 publications and 12 monographs, books, chapter in, and 12 IPR copyright. Actually, she is a teacher, but she is still student, want to learn more and guide other person as a teacher. And current passion is to marry medical education simulation. I am welcome you for presentation this session. Well,
I'll need a hand mic. I can't stand in one place. Thank you, Dr. L. Rajan, for that very nice introduction. And good morning and welcome to the audience. Okay. Actually, initially, when the scientific team decided, the topic given to me was coaching and mentorship for career progression. When I started reading about it and I was working on it, then I realized that this is not just about career progression, right? Great mentors, they focus on you as a whole person and not only one aspect of career progression in your report here. So that is what made me change the topic to mentoring and coaching for professional development. It is all about 360 degree. I'll move about a little bit so that difficult to do. So I have some disclosures to make. I have been, when this topic was there, actually Dr. Kadambari only told me, Maha, why don't you talk on this topic? Because I asked her, Madam, can you talk on this? So I have very little experience of mentoring people. I hope that I'm doing some good work with the people in AVMC now and a little bit with MGMCRI. But more importantly, I have been mentored. I have been in the receiving end of mentorship for almost my entire professional career. And these are some of the people who have left very strong impressions on me and my role models, right? Some of you might recognize, and the others are not so prominent people, but they have left a huge mark on me. So my pranams to them, and I have no conflict of interest to declare. So I'm going to focus on these aspects during this presentation. I'm going to talk about why we need to enter into nurturing relationships in the workplace and what type of nurturing relationships you can have with your peers or seniors in a professional workplace environment. what best practices work in mentorship, and most importantly, what are the new age mentoring models? Because we are very familiar with this mentor-mentee program, mentoring, we keep talking about for students, but when we are talking about faculty who are adults, how do we actually translate some of these best practices into practice? I hope we'd do this in the next 30 minutes or so. So when we talk about professional development, it actually moves through these stages, right? This 5-stage model which has been proposed, and we kind of know it inherently. So this is how professional development occurs in medicine. First and foremost is we spend enormous amount of time and energy in trying to acquire knowledge and skills. We build ourselves and we make ourselves competent to do that. And we practice repeatedly, right? But it doesn't per se, doing 100 hernias does not make me the best hernia surgeon. Unless I get feedback, I reflect on what has happened, and there is some amount of internalization of what values and attitudes that the profession represents, what values and attitudes you need to have as a teacher, as a researcher, or as a clinician. So that has to become internalized. Then it becomes much easier for professional development to take up. And it is very, very unfair for us just to get or imbibe knowledge from other people without giving back to the society. And whatever you learn, you need to give this. You need to be a role model, or you need to mentor, hold hand with some of your teams and get them up. So that is what this cycle of professional development is all about. So that is what we are going to talk about. And I want you to take back to the story, very interesting story. When Sita was taken away by Ravana, right? So he meets Sugriva, and Sugriva says that you kill Vali, I will give you armies to fight, and I'll help you to find Mata Sita. So this is what he says, and then they deploy 4 teams, north, south, east, west, and then they go searching for the Lady Sita. So the team which goes to south has Angatan as his captain. Angatan is Vali's son, supposed to be a very famous warrior. And they have very great warriors in the name of Neelan. He was another person. In this team, there was a foot soldier by name Hanuman. And also a very wise, old, grizzly bear, Jambavan. Okay, Jambavan is supposed to be very nice. So they all reach south. And then they take the help of Jatayu. Jatayu is the bird which gets killed when Ravana abducts Sita, right? His brother is there. His name is Sambhav. He can see, because he is a hawk, he can see for a long distance, and he sees and tells that Sita is there in Ashokavan, she is in Lanka. So they actually discuss, how do we go? And then they have this, that time they used to measure distance in something called as yojana, like our mile and all that. So they ask what is the capability of each of them, and Angatan will say, I can jump 100 yojana. But Sri Lanka is more than 1000 yojana. So what do we do? So they keep asking each other. And that time, Jambavan reminds Hanuman, he calls him and tells him, see, you are much more capable and you are able to do that. And he gives him a pep talk so that Hanuman realizes his potential. He actually had a curse because he was a naughty boy, and somebody told him that you will forget all your powers unless somebody reminds you of that. So this is the scene where Jambavan is going to talk to Hanuman. Please play the video. Escape, next slide. So this is what happens. Next, escape and next slide. Yeah. So this is what Jambavan did. He mentored Hanuman. He told him what is his hidden potential. He told him that it is okay to explore new things. It is for you to develop. And at this point of time, Hanuman becomes the hero of Ramayana compared to Rama, right? He fades the other people away, like he raises in his stature, and that is the instant when this has happened. So mentors do that. Actually, they not only teach you, but they actually unlock the hidden potential in what can be there. And they say it is okay for you to fail. You don't have to succeed, but it is necessary for you to learn from your failures as well as from your successes. So that is what mentoring is all about. And if you have to take contemporary example, there's a very nice eulogy written by Mark when Steve Jobs died, when he actually started coding for Facebook in 2007-8 when he was a grad student. Steve Jobs actually shared how he had built up the company and how Apple kicked him out and got him back, and that, he says, helped him a lot in putting the things together. You might recognize some of them. Bill Gates attributes all his philanthropic activities, the Bill Gates Melinda Gates Foundation, to the mentorship provided by Warren Buffett, who has actually pledged almost all his property towards human development, human potential development. And the other picture is that of Banting and Best, sir was talking about, right? So Banting was the surgeon and the Best was his student. So he has been mentored and he has been brought up into the level of Nobel Prize by his own teacher. So these are some of the modern day examples of mentorship. Okay. So why do we need mentorship across career continuum? So if you actually take our career path from medical school to residency and fellowship, and when we become junior faculty or rise up to mid-level career faculty and start practice or go into leadership positions, there are various needs for us, right? The first and foremost is when you are at junior level, how do we actually plan our career? What should I take? So that is something which you require, right? Somebody who can tell you what is there and guide you to do that. And then as you move along in the continuum, you're worried about work-life balance. So how much of my time and energy goes into my career and how much of it is actually going to be spent on my work. So that is something which your mentors can help, right? The other thing is, as you go along, when you start practice and when you climb up the ladder, entrepreneurship. How do you ensure that your skills are marketed? You do a research. How do you ensure that your research gets the recognition it deserves? So that is something which is being taught. Entrepreneurship not only in the form of making money, but entrepreneurship of your knowledge. That is something which you need. And as you go much higher up, the imposter syndrome comes and catches you, right? You're so far away. You're sitting at 30,000 feet above the sea level and you lose touch with the ground reality. Right? So that is something which happens as we ascend up in leadership positions. So the mentors is needed even at that level to keep you grounded, to say that this is where you belong. There's a very nice article which has been published in JAMA recently, which talks about career continuum and the need for mentorship. And our friend from PIMS was asking Vishnu Bhatt sir, how do we manage all these things? Yes, we wear a lot of hats in our everyday activities. But if you see this cute 2x2 matrix, you need to find out how high is the challenge and how much is the support. If your challenge is very high and there's hardly any support, right? And people retreat, they go into their shell because they become very, very uncomfortable. But there is no challenge and there is no support. You're left to rot. That's what happens. You get stuck in some place, and for many of us, sometimes it is okay to get stuck. If you get a lot of support and you don't have much challenge, right? This is, sorry, that should be this thing. So you become a conformist, you become a naysayer, yes, you become part of coterie. But growth really occurs when you have a high challenge and when you have high amount of support. So you need somebody backing you up, walking with you and talking to you that this is what has happened. So this is a matrix which tells us about the need for mentorship. Okay. Don't change, man. Okay. So if you see the career mapping of faculty, people need to take sometimes major changes in life. Like I made a decision to include medical education as a big part of my career at some point of time. So that's a major change from totally hospital environment, you have to come to some other place. So that is this. There can be obstacles, right? Too young, 30 years, 32 years, 38 years, you want to give this job. So sometimes you will face obstacles like that. People challenge you, okay? Do they really know that? You need some resources. You can't just like exist in vacuum. You need some resources for your own development and growth. You need somebody's support and sponsorship for this. And you need to learn to network with people. You need to connect. So these are all the things which are essential. And this is what happens when you want to move up in your career. You need to move from independent, okay, you are in your own department, to interdepartments, right? And you learn to lose a little bit of your self-identity and start assuming group identities. So that's where the career progression takes place. And you need to become comfortable with the idea of multiple interdependent people working together as leaders. So that is the challenge which comes when collaboration is introduced. And if you do not know how to handle this challenge, then there is issues. So this is another very interesting infographic we found on continuum of leadership development. So the continuation says that you need to become competent in whatever you're doing. You should be self-sufficient, self-efficient. You need to understand the milieu in which you're operating. You should be a little bit politically savvy, right? You don't have to lose your values, but still you need to learn to navigate the systems in which you are there. You need to focus on your personal as well as professional growth. And you need to give back. You need to have communities of practice. You need to have your own support systems. This transition, as it goes in the initial stages, takes much longer time, much longer efforts, right? But once it gathers momentum, then it just rolls on like that. It is that snowball effect which happens. So this is what is the continuum of leadership development. And during this, you need to actually have one network who will support you. Have someone whom you can actually brainstorm. I intend to do this, or I am doing this, I am facing this problem. I have some issues to discuss. So you need somebody who can actually talk to you and then put some action plan together. And during this process, you might end up with certain common routine pitfalls which occurs, okay? There's a death traps everywhere in the system. So you should learn how to avoid it. And then only you end up moving the ladder. It says corporate business and all because I took this article from Harvard Business Review. So leave that corporate and business, but it still applies to us. So this is what mentors do. They offer encouragement during challenging times. They support your journey towards progress. They share their knowledge and life experiences and say that it is okay sometimes to do all this. They provide personal development tips. They advise you on professional development. They identify and source resources for you, and they help you to set aspirations and goals. So that clarity of mind which is required for career progression is what your mentor contributes. And this is another interesting article which has been published in Academic Medicine, and multiple other articles have shown that this is what happens when you get mentored in academic medicine. They found that the residents and fellows who had a formal mentoring programs were much more confident. The idea of acculturization, that means you need to learn to speak the language of the department, the language of your specialty, the language of your institution. That is what I mean by the term acculturization. And the better sense of fit, that is what happens when you get mentored. It is very nice to have a mentor, not only at that level. If somebody can grease the path for you. It makes it easier. It provides much better job satisfaction because you are getting involved in other things. You actually think that you realize your full potential. Yesterday, Dean sir was showing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Self-actualization is the best incentive you can get. You reach your own potential. You end up with a more productive career and you get a greater support for career progression. And what does the institution gets? The institution gets committed faculty, and there is a much higher retention rate because they are involved in so many other things. So these are the advantages of having a mentor in this. So what type of nurturing relationships we can have in workplace? It depends on how knowledgeable that person is about you and your personal goals, and how directive, how much he is telling you to do things, right? So if the person knows about you, right, highly knowledgeable, and he is highly directive, he tells you, you need to do this, right? They are your professional coaches, right? Like how athletes have their coaches. They tell you that you need to get this done to get the Olympic gold medal. So they are very focused on outcomes. So that is where you get highly directive and highly knowledgeable people. And you have trainers, like we had the faculty development program. We don't know much about the career aspirations of the faculty who attended the program. And we are not very directive, we are very open-ended when we go for training programs. So trainer is very less. The other thing you can have is a sponsor, somebody who is higher up in the system but who believes in your potential and says, okay, you can do this. And you can have guides. A mentor is somebody who actually takes all these things. Sometimes, most of the times he nudges you, he tells you your potential. Sometimes he does what is called as mentoring, that is mentoring plus coaching when they need to push you, when the inertia or stasis is little high. And sometimes they sponsor you, talk for you in the right forums. So if we were to put, the coach talks down to you, need to do this, right? And the trainer talks to you, you have to do this. Whereas, or you can do this. The guide and the mentor, they talk with you. It's a two-way dialogue. And the sponsor talks about you to various forums. So these are the types of nurturing relationships you can actually cultivate in your workplace. And there is no perfect formula for mentorship, neither for the mentee nor for the mentor, but we can actually follow certain best practices. Like situational leadership, we can also have situational mentorship models. So if sometimes you will need much more directions and sometimes you would need little step back approach. So it depends on where you find yourselves. So that these are the approaches. The mentor can tell you sometimes, he can direct you to do things, he can tell stories, and most importantly, he can push you on a path of self-discovery. Ask yourself to set the questions and help you to find the answers yourself. So, as faculty members, okay, as we grow along, we include more and more people whom we can mentor. As assistant professor, you will probably be mentoring only UG students or PG students. When you become associate, you get involved into mentoring other people also, like for example, allied health professionals, your junior faculty. And when you become professors, you need to take all your students, technicians, and other people also into that. So as you grow, it becomes much, much wider. Your responsibility becomes much wider. Mentees need different things from the mentors. Other than guidance, right? They want insight. This is the new job which I want to apply. Do you think that it fits into my profile? This is the transition I want to make. Is it okay? They want to be challenged. Sometimes they are very comfortable, settled in something, and you need to push them. No, you need to get that. So they may not realize it themselves, but sometimes they are asking you help to get challenged. They want a brainstorming partner. They want you to introduce to somebody who can actually push them in the career path. They want you to identify certain opportunities. They want collaborative skills. And sometimes they want to be directed. So this is where the situational mentorship model applies. So successful career planning or changes, it involves both inputs from you as well as from the mentor. As a mentee, we need to make a very detailed career plan. What do we want to achieve? What are our goals? And how do we think that we need to go about? And most importantly, what is my value system? What I'm going to compromise on and what I'm not going to compromise on. And then to do all these things, what skill set I'll require and how do I go about acquiring that skill set? What training I need to do, where I have to go and things like that. And once you go, how do you review and reflect on the progress made? Are you in the right track or you need to go off? So these are some of the things, questions for the steps we need to make. So mentoring roadmap involves self-reflection, establishing a formal mentoring relationship, continuing to maintain that relationship and moving ahead. So this is some important tips. So instead of advising, instead of just telling the things that I have done this, you can share some stories. You can create a game plan for your mentee and see if they can fit into it. You can inculcate them into your own networks and most importantly, provide them clarity on what is that they are going to do. So when you talk, it becomes much more clearer. So there are certain do's and don'ts. Most important thing for mentors to do is to listen actively and support the mentee. And the thing which should not be done is try and fix the problem for them. It's their problem. They need to find the solution. You are there as a judge. And most importantly, not lose critical oversight. What is that we are ultimately trying to achieve rather than the intermittent or immediate objectives in front of it. We need to look at the goals rather than the objectives. And please don't condemn. One failure does not mean that it makes, or a mistake does not mean that his career is lost. And for the mentees, it's a cardinal sin to be just passive, to try and stay in your own comfort zone, and to stay in a mentoring relationship when it is not really working for you, right? You need to go and tell, this is what we have tried out, but I'm sorry that I think this is not working out. You have every right to say that. And what you need to do is to take initiative and try and communicate with your mentor your agenda. And it is not necessary to have one mentor for all your diverse activities. You can have multiple mentors. So that is the other thing. So when you talk about new age mentoring, there are a lot of things which are happening. You can have peer mentors. You can have reverse mentors. Your junior faculty, somebody who is less younger than you in age or qualification can still be there. We all see Ratan Tata with that Shantanu, who is his protege, right? You can have distance mentoring. This came about during the COVID times. You can have one-to-one mentoring or a group mentoring, like the induction programs. That's also a form of group mentoring what we do. Okay, so mentoring has got redefined from one person who is in an advanced career, who is sharing his knowledge and experience and pouring it on you. Now it has become a two-way communication, and they can have anything, useful experience, knowledge, skills, or wisdom, and it contributes to individuals' professional development. I'm sorry for this tardy side. It just says that mentorship has moved from diet, two people getting involved, into multiple mentorships, and you can have communities of practice. So the new age mentorship, you can have a very structured model, right? When you can induct faculty into mentorship program, unlike unstructured model where they went about searching for it. So many of the companies or corporates are actually having formal mentorship programs. The mentees have become more active compared to the passivity which was there before, just receiving knowledge. You sit at the foot of the guru in the Gurukulam and just imbibe knowledge from them. It is goal-driven rather than task-driven, right? It is not the objective which counts, it's the ultimate goal or the outcome which counts. I talked about near-peer and reverse mentoring. We also need to address whether you need to have single or multiple. It is okay to have multiple. You might have one mentor for research, one mentor for learning leadership skills and other things. And do I mean to make my mentee in the same mold I am made? Or can I allow them to blossom? That's another question. You need to give them space. They are like your children, right? You can't mold them into you. You have to make it into their own things. So you need to ensure that we move from a single mentor to multiple mentors, the next concept is to have developmental networks, so that it is not just made up of one. This conference is one of the developmental mentors. Like you try and meet a lot of your juniors, you try and meet some senior people, you meet your peers, you met professionals, right? You met people who are actually supporting you from the technology and other things. So you can have a circle of mentorship or your network of mentorship. And the stronger it is, the more easier is it for you to grow. Then I'm coming to almost the last part of the presentation. There was this very interesting article which came out during COVID. What happened to women in STEM and what was the impact of COVID on women faculty? This was published in Nature, and they really looked at how many publications came, how many career progressions occurred. Like Puducherry has 9 medical colleges, Puducherry and Kadlur, Thiruvananthapuram. There's one medical college which has a dean who is a lady. The other medical colleges don't. We have 23 institutions in our own university. And I think, except for the 3 nursing colleges, there's only one dean from medical college in the entire system. So what happens to women in STEM? Where is this glass ceiling effect as it goes? So they need much more support because they are trying to balance multiple things. So that is another very important thing. This work-life balance, when we spoke about, it applies much, much more to them also. The work pressures, okay, limited career opportunities, ability to move. And the most distressing thing, no, I'm not being heard. That is another thing which is being done. So you need to create multidimensional mentoring teams, especially for the underrepresented and the less privileged people. You need to have peers, you need to have mentors, you need to have very strong sponsors in your system to talk about their cause and move them along. And sometimes you need coaches to tell them, direct them and get it done in that way. So you need to have a multidimensional mentorship team, especially when we are talking about less privileged. So equity is also very, very important. Yesterday Dr. Sethuraman was showing you the slides. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So if I were to summarize, the impact of faculty mentoring is to convert this snake and ladder into a much more smoother hairpin bend. It still has hairpin bends, but it is much smoother. It's a laid road compared to the other one. What is in it for a mentor if you actually take it up? You feel that you're shaping up the future of people. That's a very, very nice feeling which you get. It also helps to strengthen your own leadership skills, and you learn new skills in the process, right? You learn people handling, you learn how to communicate, you learn to identify some gems, hidden gems in that, right? And I would say from in this conference itself, I have identified some people and I could really see them that shining up. Okay, maybe wait for valedictory to listen to that. And it helps to increase the mentee's confidence. So that's a very nice feeling that you're helping somebody and giving back to the society. So these are my references. Thank you very much. I'm available.
Thank you very much, madam, for a wonderful, elaborate lecture. Mainly the health professional development, the changes that what we can do it with a detailed video presentation of Rama, Hanuman, other thing, as well as challenges in all aspects and how to deal it, and to contribution in transition and career progression planning, and as well as the contribution importance of mentorship. Thank you, madam, for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you,
for
sir.
Question session.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I've known you for some time now. I don't know if I'm going to be politically correct, but you did mention something about politically savvy.
Yes, madam.
Could you expand on it a little bit or with an example?
Okay.
If it is possible, because I know it's...
Yeah, madam. Actually, when each of the systems, each of your institutions, they have their own political system. What is right thing to say, what is not the taboo element in your system. So you need to understand and stay clear of those landmines, or if you are going to touch those landmines, right, you need to have a very, very strong sponsor who will actually advance this cause. Like for example, the most difficult things to change in a medical college, right? I don't know, everybody would say curriculum change, this, that and all. I would say that the most difficult thing to change is the timetable. Right? It's a holy grail which you cannot touch only because people are so used to this. Even one shifting is going to do that. So unless you have somebody who is sponsoring this or you have a very strong backup. So sometimes it is better not to touch these things or build your resources and then do it. So this is the political savviness. So sometimes what works in one place need not work in the other place. So that is what I meant as political savviness. Yes, sir. I know, sir, you would ask.
No, I'm not asking questions for a change. 2 comments. First comment is, I think a lot of mentor-mentee relationship need not be a formalized one, because my personal experience, and I'm sure it's the experience of most of us, we generally latch on to people we believe will be good mentors for us, even though we've been not formally assigned those mentors. So I think it's important to understand that we need not always have a formalized arrangement for mentor-menteeship. Rather, mentees are free to choose their mentors and vice versa in the work environment, depending upon what works for you. The second comment I wanted to make was I'm a typical example of reverse mentorship, because I think you have been my mentor for so many aspects of medical education, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Actually, what I meant as formal versus structured versus unstructured is, see, you are choose as many mentors who will work for you. But what I meant as formal mentorship is, suppose I'm not the outgoing person. I'm a little timid person and I don't get this. So the university or the system should provide opportunity for everybody to have some access. You can take one as a mandatory thing and the rest of the mentors you can actually find on your own as you grow along. So that is what I meant, that everybody should have some access to mentorship, even if they aren't coming forward, because that's what happens initially. They are quite timid and needed.
Yes, it was an excellent. Now I am going to ask you to become my mentor. Anyway, what I have seen, and I did a course on it also, in pathology we have something known as oncogene. It's just 3 or 4 atoms which are changed, and it involves the entire cell and then the whole body. So it is basically just a little bit change. In nature we see that there is one person like a Gandhi or a Hitler or Osama bin Laden who metastasizes to New York, and we see that there is these flows of energy. So the moment you start filling up these energy gaps, then automatically mentors, they start coming from somewhere. And energy, the evolution takes place this way. And the moment you start, your project is something evolutionary. Nature sends you mentors. Like we started on this, sitting in US, Dr. Vinay Kumar, author of Robinson, I could never think. He landed up, sent the ticket, made me come here, come and talk to me. It was funny, but I said, what is this happening? But it happens. So, you announce your project, the mentor comes from somewhere.
Thank you very much, sir. It's indeed a privilege to be called as mentor for Dinkar Pai, sir. He was my teacher in MS.
Thank you for a very insightful talk on a new concept. We do know about student mentorship program, but you have introduced a relatively new terminology of faculty mentorship. My question is a corollary to Dr. Dinkar Pai's. Yes, as sir mentioned, we have informally been mentoring our juniors. Usually it is the senior faculty or an administrator who mentors the other faculty. It is informal. But I do agree about formal mentoring, because if somebody like Dr. Dinkar Pai, who wants to improve, he is intrinsically motivated, he would look for a mentor. But then we do have faculty who need mentoring, who would not wish to be mentored. So we do need a formal mentoring system. So I would just like to ask if it is a one-to-one mentorship program that we are looking at, is there a system for matching the mentor with the mentee? Because that would be more effective.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting thing because, thank you for asking that question. This matching occurs when they come in, and many of the corporate things where this mentorship has come into a big way, they actually have what is called as a matching. They ask the mentees to write what is their aspiration, where do they want to work on, and they try to match somebody with the system. And if it's a fit, it is fine. If it is not a fit, you can get reassigned also. So this is come from business world, but I think there is something which is in for all of us to take it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deepthi.
This program we actually are doing physical. Online also we are simultaneously transmitting. A lot of question was in the Zoom because we are running out of time. Actually, madam can answer all the Zoom other thing with the tea break time, madam.
Can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Now I request Dr. Ariel Rajan, the chairperson of the scientific session, to present a memento to the resource person, Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi, Dean Health Professions Education, Professor of Pediatric Surgery, Orapudi Medical College. I request other chairpersons to join.